Fantasy Football Tips Podcast with Mills, JP, Quigliarno, and Cliff.
Hello, you're listening to FantasyFootballTips.co, the podcast in association with Premier Punt, the home of daily fantasy football betting. I'm Mills and I'm joined just by JP this week for the Game Week 8 podcast. JP, how are you doing, fella?
I'm very well, thank you. I feel this is very intimate. I like this.
It is intimate, isn't it? Me and you in a studio with
just the two of us,
with no one else in sight.
It's interesting how you're looking into my eyes very deeply right now.
I am. It's that well-groomed beard as well. It's sort of drawing me in. Anyway, people haven't listened to hear us flirt, tuned in to listen to us flirt.
Very true.
They've tuned in for fantasy football. And I tell you, JP, I've got to tell you, I'm so glad FPL is back.
Yeah,
it's. I mean, watching England is bad enough.
Yes.
But just the thought of there being no fancy Premier League for 2 weeks is just ludicrous.
Well, I play football on Saturdays myself, and we lost the game on Saturday, and I came off the pitch, and I was more frustrated by the fact that I wasn't going to go home to watch Premier League highlights than I was with the defeat of my own game. That's how much it means, and I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who feel the same way. It's a pain in the backside when there's no Premier League on.
Absolutely, it is. I mean, and just a word on the internationals. I mean, it always kind of throws up the injury scares, doesn't it? And we'll discuss some of those later.
Yeah.
But did you enjoy the international break at all? Was there anything you could take from it?
Almost nothing. Almost nothing. I think Malta. There's a lot of this discussion of whether, we win 2-0, is that a bad result? Well, no, it's not. It's a win. And quite frankly, they didn't really turn up to try and beat us. They turned up to try and prevent us from scoring goals. We still were pretty boring, particularly second half. We were rubbish. And then Slovenia, well, quite frankly, we were outplayed. I mean, I've never seen an England team outplayed by a team ranked so lowly. Like, we were horrendous. We were dreadful.
Yeah, it wasn't great to watch, was it? I mean, and Joe Hart, bless his cotton socks.
He's had an absolute storm.
He had a great game, which is nice for him, I suppose. But FPL is back, and it's good to be back. So JP, I think we're going to try and keep this fairly short and sweet for the listeners this week. We will have a podcast extra, as we always do, but I want to go straight in with your Gary of the Week.
Yeah, well, like you say, short and sweet. It's a fairly obvious one. I'm going to go with none other than Alexis Sanchez. At home, first and foremost, they're usually very, very good at home. They're playing Swansea, who don't look great at the moment. I know they play quite well against City, but generally still concede goals. New manager, which is always a risky time. It can be a good thing or a very bad thing. They look great, Arsenal, at the moment. I think they're playing probably the best stuff they've played in a while. Good player, we know this. He's brilliant, isn't he? He's attacking. He's involved in everything that is good. They're playing probably the best football they have in a while, I think, Arsenal.
Yeah, I think potentially there could be title contenders this season. It's looking fairly open up at the top, particularly given the Man City result at Spurs last time out.
Yeah.
So, interesting show. My only concern, JP, and I don't usually sort of interrupt on the Gary of the Week.
Please do.
Is he's played in Chile, and the last time he played for his international team, he was on the bench on the following game. So that is just a slight concern for me.
Little concern. I imagine, obviously, there's been a lot of teams that have played over the international break, and I imagine quite a lot of the players in the Premier League. I'm not sure if he could afford to bench him at this current time. He might do, but I'd be very, very surprised, and I'm going to stick with it.
Okay, I like it. I like the confidence on that, JP. So let's go for your Xabi.
My Xabi Alonso, my long shot. Now, I did ask Millsy before the podcast, how long do you want me to go? And he said very, very long.
Well, I'm interested to see whether very long. I don't want it very long.
You want it long?
I want it long.
I've heard that before. I'm going with the Bournemouth striker, King.
Nice. Do you know what? I'm glad you changed it, because the one you had before was far too safe.
He was short. In fact, he's literally short in both as a long shot and in height, because it's going to be Defoe. But no, King is my long shot. Scored last week. I think he's a player. I think he's a good player. He's young, he's fast, he's athletic, quite tall. I think he's the sort of player who, given a few games, could actually get a few goals for himself. I mean, he's not going to be prolific this season, but playing against Hull at home, Hull, for me, I think they're going to start going downhill from now. I think they had their nice little kind of phase at the beginning of the season. I think that they're going to tail off now. And I think Bournemouth versus Hull will be a goal-scoring game, and I think he'll get a couple of goals.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, certainly on the Hull shout, I think that decline has already started, hasn't it? I mean, they in their defence, they have had 3 very tough fixtures in a row.
They have.
But since their 1-1 draw at Burnley, they've had really heavy defeats to Arsenal, and I think it was Liverpool, and then Chelsea last week. I mean, that is a tough run of fixtures.
It is tough.
But, Bournemouth maybe slightly the other way, a bit of an improvement in form. So would be nice to see them go on a little run. I like that shout.
Thank you very much.
I'm intrigued by the Delia. I've not had a preview on this.
Yeah, but Delia, let's be having you. Now this player he's expensive. He's known as one of the best strikers in the world, but he's not scoring at the moment. He's stopped. Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
He has
His points
stopped.
have dried up. His points have dried up. He looked phenomenal first 2 games. Goal in both the first 2 games. One of which was an excellent goal. I know he scored in a few of the cup matches, but it's frustrating. I'll be honest, I've got him in my team, but
that explains your current
it explains my
performance.
deal, yeah. But at the same time, I don't want to take him out, but I think if he doesn't score this week, I'm going to have to, because it's so much wasted money in one player. They're playing against, is it Liverpool this weekend? It's Liverpool. Good knowledge from me, thank you. Yeah, Liverpool now.
Monday night football as well. I think that's going to be interesting.
That is an
Under the
interesting,
floodlights.
tough game. What a week to, let's be having you. Get back into the goals, win a game for Manchester United, score people a ton load of points. There's my man.
I mean, yeah, and again, as good as Liverpool have looked going forward, they are still shocking, aren't they, defensively?
They love conceding a goal.
So this is unlikely to be the time that they're going to get a clean sheet, isn't it, really?
I think Zlatan will score twice.
Okay, that's a bold shout. So
yes.
You're going to be keeping him in your team?
He will be staying in my team. I completely respect that some people are taking him out, and I can see why.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, have you got any side tips for us, JP?
I've got 4. Now, I normally have a few more, but I'm going for the kind of concept of quality over quantity this week. So I hope that these are really good quality side tips. My first one is Tadic. Very, very good player. If you haven't watched him that much, get yourself, watching him, because he's very skillful. He's threatening. Playing against Burnley at home. I really like Southampton at the moment. I don't know what you think, Millsy, but I've watched them and I've enjoyed watching them.
I think they've looked decent.
I think they've looked strong.
They're just not clinical.
They're not clinical, but he has been involved in the goals that they have scored, or he's always that kind of threat to them, him and their strikers. So Tadic is one of the side tips if you've got a requirement for a slightly cheaper midfielder.
Yeah, and I think the departure of Mane was always going to be a good sign for Tadic.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it's something that will kind of be a theme of the season, and that will carry on.
Yeah.
So I quite like that one. Yeah.
All right, not bad. Next one is Jermaine Defoe. You were speaking about him before the podcast. I wanted to use him as a side tip, but a long shot, but it wasn't enough of a long shot because they're playing Stoke, who look dreadful, really bad. He's been lethal. I know he didn't score last week, but he scored the week before that, and he looks really good. I mean, we all know Defoe. He's a proven, tested player. He's quite a cheap striker as far as they go. I could see him scoring once or twice easily against Stoke.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I mean, the strikers are being outperformed this season so far by the midfielders. But even having said that, he's still the 4th best striker in the league in terms of FPL points, above Ibrahimovic, who you've already discussed.
And there you go. And look at the price, 7.2.
So
peanuts.
It is peanuts, and I think he's very close to being a must-have player.
Wow, I really
do.
I like
and I think I think they've got 2 decent fixtures actually coming up. So before they go on a bit of a tougher run, so they're going to be must-win fixtures for them too, really. So okay, you got anything else for us?
I've got two more. One of them is fairly obvious, but I'm still going to talk about him anyway. Is Benteke. Well, I mean, he's setting the world on fire at the moment. I mean, that goal against Everton was phenomenal. Don't know if you guys saw that goal. Great header at the back post. Classic Benteke goal. Looks confident to me. It's very obvious, and I mentioned this a lot of times on the podcast. I like players that the squad is centred around. He is a player that they centre that's their tactics around now. He's got to be. So he is likely to get a goal.
Scored after 7 seconds in the week.
Wow.
Against Gibraltar, I believe.
That's insane.
7 seconds. He's set a new World Cup qualifier record.
Amazing. You'd think almost impossible unless he kicked it first time, but brilliant. And they're playing against West Ham at home, Crystal Palace. Another team, West Ham. What is going on there?
I mean, we've talked about this in the last few weeks. it's unbelievable,
It
really,
is unbelievable.
the turnaround. I mean, there's a lot of sort of excuses flying around now. They're blaming the pitch. They're blaming the fact that they've not been able to get on the pitch. My understanding is that they've now got permission to train on the pitch itself. But the other team has to play on the same pitch. So to me, it's not really a valid excuse.
Yeah, I think it's absolute nonsense.
It is, isn't it? And
absolute nonsense, yeah.
They're conceding too many goals and they're not scoring enough. On the flip side of that, Payet has started to come into some form.
He looks good, but I don't know if he's going to be enough.
Maybe not enough for West Ham, but maybe enough for a fancy Premier League team.
And a very good side tip. I like that, throwing your own in there. Thank you for that, Mills. Thank you very much. No, I appreciate that. My final one, on top of Payet, is Son of Spurs. I mean, Cliff said it. To be fair to him, I'll compliment Cliff. He's not here today, which is a shame, but he mentioned him a while ago, and actually, he's been brilliant. He had a little bit of an altercation with a penalty, didn't he? I don't know if you saw that in his last Premier League game.
He
had a bit of an altercation there, but nevertheless, great assist for Dele Alli's last goal. Looks dangerous, playing in a very forward role. Harry Kane's still not back yet.
Scored again in midweek for South Korea as well.
I'll tell you what, Mills, you really are impressing me with these
international knowledge.
You are proving that you are more than just a podcast pundit. You are a renowned intellectual football researcher.
And a well-travelled one too.
And I am very impressed.
So you like that?
I like that a lot.
Okay, it's amazing what you can do with a bit of Wi-Fi.
It is amazing what you can do with Wi-Fi.
So,
well done you.
Okay, so that rounds it up then, does it, JP?
Yeah.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like, again, the fact that you've not gone in for too many there. You've not hedged your bets too much. So we'll see how that goes next week. We're going to be right back after this short break with a massive announcement.
Can't wait.
Massive announcement.
That is...
and some questions from the fans.
Wow.
FantasyFootballTips.co. Number one for FBL. In partnership with PremierPunt.com. The home of fantasy football betting.
Now, I mean, JP, you have no idea what this announcement is, do you?
Absolutely none whatsoever.
I mean, this deserves a drum roll. I don't know if we can get
Oh,
one.
well, we'll see.
Do a thigh-based drum roll there. JP is wearing shorts.
I am.
I won a Manager of the Month.
Oh! Hey!
Well,
did you win it outright though?
Well, let's imagine Quigliano's here because he will be the first to say that I've not won a Manager of the Month. But I feel that I have. It was a joint win.
It's a win.
It put money in my pocket.
Let me ask you this question: if it was an Olympic event, would you have received a gold medal?
I believe so.
You would. So would the other person, but you both would have got gold medals. First place.
I mean, I like your Olympic knowledge there. I didn't
I'm
know.
strong on Olympics.
Yeah. So I would. It was a good month. Good month
well
for
done,
Mills. Puts me in about the top 60,000, which is pretty nice at this stage of the season. Certainly better than it was last season for me. So so that's great. We've had a little bit of correspondence from Twitter and on the email this week.
Good.
Unfortunately, JP, it wasn't really aimed at you.
Oh, okay.
We had I had an email actually from Dimitris, aka Pav. Familiar with Pav?
I'm not, but I'm glad to know him now.
And he sent me a message saying that he plays in a draft league, and he somehow ended up with only Christian Benteke and Hernandez up front since Kane got injured. He wanted to know which of these available players would the mighty Cliff sub in to fix up his forward line. I'm not sure. I mean, I like mighty Cliff. I mean, that's how are you feeling about that? First of all,
my honest opinion is generous. I would say stay on the average, Cliff, but that's just me. No, I've got a joke. I will answer the question if you'd like me to.
He's given you some options. You want to answer the question?
Well, give me the options first, and then
we've got Defoe, Rondon, Llorente, Deeney, and Vokes. So he's currently got Benteke and Hernandez and Kane. Okay. So I take it you're going to tell him to drop Kane.
Yes.
Hernandez. He's got to go, hasn't he?
He's got to go. It's ridiculous.
So we're going to put two in. So out of Defoe, Rondon, Llorente, Deeney, and Vokes, who are you putting in?
For me, Defoe and Rondon. Out of those five, Defoe, we spoke about earlier on, goal scorer, dangerous. Rondon is scoring goals. Not a good fixture this week. Spurs, but generally a goal-scoring player. I think if you look at Vokes and Deeney, I like Vokes. He's a hard-working lad. I don't think he's going to get many goals this season. Deeney, I don't think he's going to get many goals this season, and Llorente, I don't think he's playing in a particularly strong squad this season. So I'd have to tip my bets towards the other two.
Okay, good. I like that. Yeah, I mean, I actually think Deeney's going to have a decent season.
Okay.
I think it'll be a better one than Igalo's anyway. And he goes on to say, "Thanks, guys. Love the show. Pav. P.S. All the way from Japan."
Well, thank you very much, Pav. It's really nice to have you here.
So some love from Japan there. Sushant's been in touch on Twitter.
Top man.
Sushant, we love
Top
Sushant. He's on here almost every week now. He should almost have his own sort of spot on the pod, I think. But he's actually doing our work for us. He suggested a new feature.
Like it.
And I think we should have a new feature. And I'm going to let the listeners decide whether they want this one or whether they want to put some ideas of their own forward. But I'd like your thoughts, JP.
Okay.
He said a new feature for the pod. And I think this comes back to something Quigliano said a few weeks ago. He said that it's the year of the gut. Which I think he was talking about gut instincts rather than flabbiness.
Yeah.
And he was saying this is his idea for a new feature: God and JP.
Like it.
Gut it out.
Ooh.
And where Quigliano, in brackets God, and JP pick a player based on their gut for the game week.
I don't like it. I love it.
Wow.
I think that's a great idea. I am so up for doing that against the god himself, Quigliano. You know, I want to prove that I can bring down a god.
I mean, the fact that he's given you no recognition. So far we've had God, Mighty Cliff, and just JP.
And just JP. I need to do this. I don't want to do it. I need to do this because I want my own thing. I want to be like, I don't know, Hero JP or JP the Legend.
Okay, it could happen. It could
well
happen.
You laugh, Millsy, but it could happen.
You've come a long way, shall
I
we
have.
say that?
Oh, a heck of a long way.
Okay, I've got another question for you, JP, again from Twitter. This is from Gibson. And he wants to know, I'm not sure, it might be a she, I'm not sure. Gibson wants to know who's going to have the best defence over the next 3 or 4 game weeks. Okay,
I'm immediately leaning towards Spurs in my head. I think they've got the best defensive unit. So, you know, when Alderweireld and Vertonghen play together, they look brilliant. Same country of origin. Kyle Walker looks great in that defence, and Lloris is a strong keeper, and you've got Danny Rose. So I think if I was going to go for one team and get some clean sheets, I'd go Spurs, definitely. Fixture-wise, they're playing West Brom. It's away, but they could easily get a clean sheet there. I'm not saying they will, but they could. The following week, they've got Bournemouth. Again, potential clean sheet. Not guaranteed. These aren't definites, but there are possibilities. And then they've got Leicester at home. They've been very, very good at home, particularly at the back. So I think if I'm going to lean towards anyone, I'm going to say Spurs to that question, Millsy.
Okay, good stuff. We're getting towards the end of the podcast, JP. The podcast standard, isn't it? We're going to go into extra shortly, where we will be discussing our captain picks.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think back. I'm not sure. Were you on the podcast when we played your little remix? I don't think you were.
I wasn't.
What were your thoughts on that?
Loved it.
Did you hear it?
Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Heard every second of it.
I mean, we talked, a few moments ago about you not having a title, but someone created a whole remix about it.
I got a remix. It was brilliant, inspiring, and I do feel like now it's inspired me to create more and to do more of what I do.
Love it.
So, I'm going to be throwing out a few more cliches here and there. I'm really going to hit,
Good stuff. Okay, I look forward to that, and maybe we'll have more cliches in the podcast extra. If you've not got premium membership, guys, it's £12 a year, just £12 a year, and it gets you access to loads of premium content on fantasyfootballtips.co, and it gets you access to the podcast extra, which we're going into right now. So if you've not heard enough from me and JP, get yourself on fantasyfootballtips.co and sign yourself up, and we'll see you on the other side. If not, stay cheap, and we'll see you next week.
It's time to go deep. It's time for the podcast extra.
Thoughts on that podcast then, JP? This is extra, by the way. We're in extra.
I think it was good. I think it was intimate.
It was.
It was cosy. It was snug. We had a nice audience participation with Sushant, who I absolutely think the world of. So I'm happy. I think that the tips are good. Like we say, quality not quantity. I hope they help people and we move forward into our captain choices now for those who deserve it.
Absolutely. And just before we touch on captain choices, I think we touched on this at the start of the podcast, the worry of injuries. And also not just injuries but fatigue as well. I think we talked about Sanchez being a potential issue, and I'm sure Son might be an issue going and playing in South Korea, and I think they're playing Qatar as well, so being sort of all over, potentially, especially a team like Spurs who've got quite a lot of talent in those areas, might be players to be concerned about. But I mean, are you concerned about any particular players at the moment? Lukaku is one that has picked up a slight injury, although I think my understanding is that he'll be okay.
I imagine he'll start. He's too integral, and quite frankly I don't think the injury sounds that bad, so I think he'll be okay. In terms of the players that have played, I imagine they will play. I mean, as a betting man, I would say Son will be starting, and I would say Sanchez will definitely be starting.
I mean, like a Raheem Sterling, for example, taken out of the England squad, or didn't travel. Likely to play this week? Do you think? Is that a likelihood?
Yeah, I think so. It's you don't want to say for definite, but I think I would be 80 to 90% yes.
And with those players, I suppose as well, sort of a yellow flag where they're almost ready to play. Is it worth taking them out? Especially if their value's increased. So someone like a Sterling or a Lukaku, whose value will have increased over the last few weeks.
You got to keep them in. It's worst case scenario they come on as a sub one game, but the likelihood is they'll start. And yeah, I agree with you. For that kind of injury, don't risk it. I'm a little bit concerned by Lallana at the moment.
I mean, it was gutting for people that put him in.
Like me. Yeah, I put him in that morning. I had a gut feeling that Liverpool were going to do well, which they did, but he didn't because he got injured within, I don't know how many minutes, but something very, very, very short. So, yeah, frustrating, and he's a little bit of one to watch for because I believe it says 75% chance of him playing, but his name is orange. It's highlighted in orange, not in yellow. Might need some research on that one, but it's concerning. I'm a bit worried about it.
Okay, yeah, I think Lallana's a big doubt this week. I think he's unlikely to play.
We've had many midfielders they've got as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe get him out of your team, people.
Okay, having said that then, JP, I want a little game with you.
Okay.
Let's take Sushant's idea up, but instead of taking on God, you can just take on Jesus. You can take on the Prince.
Okay.
You can take on me.
Okay, I like it.
So
I'll start with baby steps.
So your gut instinct, and I'm gonna put some boundaries on this.
Okay.
Just to keep it interesting.
Okay.
It can't be any of the players that have been discussed so far in the pod.
Like it.
So it's got to be someone
that
has not been discussed in terms of the tips. So not necessarily in terms of like your Sterlings and so on, but in terms of the Gary, the long shot, the Delia.
Okay, nothing
and
at all.
Side tips.
Okay, fresh player.
And I am literally putting you on the spot, aren't I?
Wow, yes you are. I am going to go with my gut. Okay.
Well, that's good because that's the idea of the game.
Which is the idea of the game here. Oh, okay, I've said it. Coutinho.
Wow, that's interesting because I was umming and ahhing with that one.
Were you?
Yeah. But I'm not going to go with Coutinho.
Okay.
And again, it has to be based on gut rather than anything else.
You seem like you're looking at the fixtures there.
Well, I've got it. Okay, I'm going with it.
Okay.
Cazorla. Interesting, actually, that we've both gone with midfielders.
Attacking midfielders, known for assists and occasional good goals.
Cazorla on penalties as well, hopefully.
Yeah.
So
I like it. I'm a bit nervous now because I've chosen a team that are playing United. You've chosen a team playing Swansea.
Absolutely.
But then again, Coutinho is that sort of player. He's magic at times, so...
Okay, we'll see. We will see. Okay, right, let's go captain picks then. So this is free for all now. You can go wherever you like. Where are you going to go with your or where is your head in terms of captain picks at the moment for this week?
Sanchez. It has to be. Regardless of where he's played midweek or this weekend. The man is pure class. He's in form. I think they're going to win by at least 2, if not 3 goals against Swansea. and I think he'll be involved in them.
Okay, I do like that shout. I'm going to go for something fairly controversial.
Like it.
I'm going to go for Jermaine Defoe.
Love it.
Just based on the fact that he's right up there in terms of top strikers right now, going away to Stoke.
Yeah.
I know they've improved slightly in the last 2 weeks, but this is, good stuff. So let's. Sorry, I was slightly put off then by
the janitor.
Janitor. We nearly had a third member of the podcast.
We did. Probably would have been better than Cliff, to be fair.
Fantastic. Okay, I think that all that being said, it's probably time to cut the show short.
Absolutely.
And we'll. Was it the janitor or was it JP's mom?
I find that highly offensive, and it was the janitor, not my mum. Yeah.
JP, it's been a pleasure. I think it's all gone to pot in the last minute or so, but if that wasn't worth paying an extra £12 per year, what is? Okay, we'll be back for game week 9. See you soon.
The Fantasy Football Tips Podcast with Mills, JP, Quigliarno, and Cliff.